Okay, the next tool I want to talk about is called Multigo. And Multigo, it's kind of hard to describe. It's I believe it's mostly open source intelligence, although I wouldn't be surprised if it does run some sort of pings and active scans in the background. But it's a way for you to gather information about a target, and it has these options. So if they're called entities, so say we want to find information about a specific domain, we can throw the domain on there, double click it, edit it, and we can do, let's just do .gov, let's do gov.uk again, and we click OK. And then we have something called transforms, so you can see them down here on the left. Zoom in a little bit, but if we right click this, you can see we have a number of transforms that we can run. So let's first of all try to find the mail servers. No entities. Okay, so we couldn't find them there. Let's try and find the name servers. Okay, so now we found some name servers, so we know what the domain name is using for its zone files and things like that. We know where its DNS records are stored. That's really sensitive information that we could gather. We know what these hosts are. So if we could compromise one of these hosts, potentially we could edit the zone file for .gov.uk and meddle with it and add subdomains and our own sort of information to it. Not that we would. But you can also do things like find common DNS names. Let's have a look if that comes back with anything. Okay, so we've now found blog.gov and we found gateway.gov. So these are other domain names that are resolved. So it's not dragging. Okay, so these are other domain names that are active, they're real. Okay, can we move on now? There we go. So these are other domain names that are real domains, they active, they resolve. And yeah, it can again allow you to map out more of the sort of domain and the footprint of the organization. So we've just ran another one there. No entities. We can try using domain name schema directory. Again, I don't know what all of these do, and some of them probably could be active. Okay, so we found some more sort of DNS records here. And again, you can tell I'm like a bit of a noob with this. Like, I haven't used it that much. I had to play around with it the other day, and I thought, you know what, this tool is great. It's something I definitely want to like explore more. DNS names with properties, find other top level domains, to domains DNS perhaps. No results found. But you can see how quickly you can build up a map of their entire organization. So if you went with something like evilcorp.com, you pop that in there, you could find subdomain names. So you could find a development.evilcorp.com or .org or whatever it is, .corp. And you could find things that aren't necessarily as well maintained as other sites or their primary site, and perhaps it's got an out-of-date version of SQL or PHP or Apache on there which has a vulnerability which you can exploit. So what we can also do is we can look for email addresses that contain that. Okay, that didn't come up with anything, but we can search for other email addresses to email address from whois information. What this will do is this will query the whois information and see if there is a email address on that. In this case, it doesn't look like there is, so we can search public PGP. And oof, you can see that we now have some email addresses. And what can you do with email addresses? Well, again, if you're doing a red team engagement, which would be totally legal, you would have your sort of rules of engagement set out, and you would have your get out of jail free card. Again, this isn't for illegal hacking, it's for ethical hacking. But you could then, if social engineering wasn't outside of the scope of the engagement, you could absolutely look into more of these email addresses. You got David Cameron at gov.uk right there. You got PM at gov.uk, and you could send them phishing emails, provided a phishing campaign is within the scope of the assessment. So what else can we search for? Email addresses, PGP, email addresses using search engines. Let's see what this brings back. Okay, that brought back, oof, a significant amount of more email addresses there. You can see, oh, probably shouldn't reveal these names on the internet, but hey ho, again, it is all publicly available on the internet. I'm not actively engaging with the target here. It's scraping search engines, pulling this information back in, and just giving it to us in a nice presentable format. What else can we do? Files. Look for interesting files. Poof, okay, sweet. The community edition does limit you to 12 searches, I believe, or 12 results per search. But if you had the actual release candidate version, you know, the amount of information you could gather would be overwhelming. As you can imagine, like, it's already populated so much, you know, it's already populated so much based off of a few clicks. And if you really know what you're doing and you know how to use this tool, you can gather so much information so quickly. I mean, look at this. Phone numbers from who is. Okay. Have we found any phone numbers? Okay, I don't think that returned any entries, but we can come down again. Phone numbers using search engines. Crawls the search engines, and look, we've got a bunch of phone numbers, but we're limited to 12, so we know there's more. And what can you do with phone numbers? More social engineering. You can phone them up, pretend to be from the IT department, and tell them, you need to tell me your password because you've been hacked. And then they give you your password and you can RDP into their box and steal all their sensitive information. Not that you would, but as part of a red team engagement, this type of information could be fantastic to help you build up your knowledge. So if you did want to enter the building, you can be like, oh, but I know customer registration. He works upstairs and his telephone number is blah. Do you know what I mean? And you could convince the security guards operating at the front desk to let you into the building, where then you can find the Ethernet port, jack in, and compromise their entire network. But this is Multigo. I wish I had more time to go through it. Again, you can look at all the entities that you've got on the side. You've got cryptocurrencies, you've got, yeah, just so much. Things with CVEs, IP4 addresses, MX records, you name it, it's all here. There's David Cameron, and yeah, that is Multigo. Give it a try on Linux. Just go to their website, multigo.com, or yeah, go into the terminal, apt-install Multigo, and it will be there. Set up the community edition. You do have to register, but this is another fantastic tool for open source intelligence gathering and passive reconnaissance.